up here? It's chilly.
I think it's going to be 37 for the high today.
I get a new roof today, Rob.
Oh, what's that? 16 months ago?
Months ago, I almost died in a tree accident in my own room. And now, after fighting the good fight with Meldon Law, partners with the Buddy Martin Show,
Yep.
we have successfully reigned supreme, and we are getting a new roof starting today. It's going to be beautiful. And guess what, Rob? These guys are Gators. The roofers, they're all Gators. The guy came to my house. He's got a Gator tattoo on the back of his back like this. I'm going to interview him for our show. You're going to love him. He's a great guy.
Oh, by the way, the tires on my tri-bike, on my road bike that I ride with, my triathlon bike, are called Gator Skin. Just wanted to say that.
Just wanted to say that too.
Just had to say it.
Good morning.
How are you? Look, we got a great one today. We're going to go in depth. Kevin Scarbinsky, Scarbo knows. You know him. One of the best sports writers and best people in America. Been doing it a long time. And he's just starting to hit his stride to 100. Also, Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline will check in with us, get the inside. What happened with Lane Kiffin? What's Ole Miss going to do now on the heels of the best season in school history? Take a picture with your cellular of the QR code. We're broadcasting live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And look, a lot of you watch us on Facebook. That's a lot of our audience. And share us and like us and subscribe.
Like and subscribe and comment. Make a comment. Come on, share your opinion. It matters. I know it doesn't seem like it does matter. And a lot of you probably think you've already subscribed or you're following and all that stuff, but you're probably not. So whatever platform you're on, there's a way to follow everybody. Go ahead and it's free. Just follow us. You'll get notifications when we're live, and we do a lot of content here. So check it out.
Yeah, and it is really cool. You'll have your phone. You could be anywhere, and the thing will ding up on the phone, and you tap on it, and you're right there because we have 8 shows on this channel. We go live sometimes when big stuff happens like Sunday. So look, for the next hour of power, pen and paper handy because it is a Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. Kevin, Dad always said, give them the date and the day of the week. It's a Tuesday. So people will know in case they just randomly are watching the show. Looks like you're cold in Birmingham. You've probably already done 2 or 3 radio shows, written 3 columns, and you're like, come on, man. I'm just getting cranked up. How you doing?
I am fired up. I just had a spirited conversation with Wimp Sanderson and his son Barry on their radio show in Tuscaloosa. I guest on there every Tuesday morning, and Barry and I had strongly differing opinions on Lane Kiffin.
Yeah. Well, let's get your thoughts on that.
Where to begin?
Again, Scarbo.
Let's just say, once a snake, always a snake. Can we start there? Start there? And I'll give you an indication of what I think of one Lane Kiffin. I don't even know where to start with this guy. The most disingenuous television interview I think I've ever seen that Marty Smith did with him on Sunday, as he looked like he was it was almost a hostage situation that he was escaping. It looked like. Do you ever see a guy seem more uncomfortable? He couldn't sit still. He wasn't sitting, he was standing. He's bouncing back and forth from one foot to the other. His eyes are going back. He looked so shifty, which is, I think, another good word for him. He was so shifty, and he didn't give a straight answer. He wouldn't even take responsibility for making the decision to take the LSU job. He said, let's see, who did he give credit to? Pete Carroll. Yeah. His late father, Monty, channeled apparently through Pete Carroll. God. He talked to God. God told him LSU to go to LSU.
Yeah.
And he implied, and he made it worse yesterday, that Nick Saban also suggested that he take the LSU job. And there are a lot of people in this state who are wondering why Nick Saban, who is still paid $500,000 a year by the University of Alabama for a job, I'm not sure what the responsibilities entail, but general ambassador, I suppose. Why is he consulting with a rival coach and advising him to go to a rival school? And there has even been suggestion from the Baton Rouge area, and I have not seen anyone confirm this, that LSU actually paid Nick Saban as a consultant on its search. Now, I don't know that to be true. Let me be very clear about that. Yeah. But if it is true, then that's a serious conflict of interest that Nick has. getting paid by Alabama, but also accepting money from LSU to consult with them. That's, I know there's no lines anymore in college sports. I know a lot of people, ethics mean nothing. It's a quaint idea. It makes you snowflake if you think there are standards and principles that you should follow. College football has gotten that sleazy in many ways, and this may be the perfect example of it. Lane Kiffin not only leaving a championship team, I still can't get my mind around this. Cole Kubelik, former Auburn player, SEC Network sideline reporter, does a radio show here in Birmingham. The dude knows. I've covered him since he was in high school. The dude knows the game.
Yeah,
and he went off on a great rant yesterday. Every moment in his football life, one word has been emphasized and stressed and pushed by coach after coach after coach at every level. Finish. Yeah. Finish the rep. Finish the drill. Run through the line. In winter workouts, in spring practice, in summer workouts. Finish the job. And Lane Kiffin, yes, there are problems with the system. Yes, there are problems with the calendar. And there are some serious questions that serious people need to ask and answer about how college football does its business. But ultimately, this came down to a coach who did a fantastic job building a team that is in position to play for a national championship, and he walked away from that team.
Yeah, he did. And look, I love Indian Pass Pirate because he's in a cool place. Cape Sandblast, that's Port St. Joe, Apalachicola Bay. I love these comments from these people. You're right, Kevin, about Kiffin. I say it every day. Zebras don't change their stripes, just their watering holes. And I can tell you, living in Memphis, there are two people that protect Hugh Freeze and cover all of his stuff. You know who they are? Sean Toohey and Jimmy Sexton. As far as Lane Kiffin's part of that deal, what he did, you have the right to go wherever you want. But the way he handled it for over a month, ruining the best season in Ole Miss school history. I have so many Ole Miss friends. I got friends at all these schools. But, God, I got a lot. I've been to close to 40 games, 52 games over the years at Ole Miss. I mean, Pete Golding now steps up. Is Joe Judge. Golly, Charlie Weiss Jr. is going, but now he's going to come back and coach. All this stuff about Lane Kiffin, he's got his life together and all. He's not back with his ex-wife. He never was. That was even being floated out there. Kevin cut through to the heart of why he is making so many people so angry. And I do think honor matters. Your honor is dearer than your life. That's how I look at it.
I just thought of a joke I can't tell on the radio based on the word honor.
Well, this is the podcast.
Or podcast.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't say that out loud. I'm sorry. I wouldn't say that out loud.
I know
in
you
public.
wouldn't.
But look, he is who he is.
Yeah.
He played everybody. He played Auburn 3 years ago.
Yeah.
He was coming. They were sure. They were convinced. Changed his mind. Wrecked Ole Miss's season as they lost out, last 3-4 games after he started flirting with Auburn and Auburn started flirting with him. And he loved it. That's what he loves. Yeah. He loves the flirtation. He loves to be loved. And this idea that he has changed because he does hot yoga, because he's lost weight, because he allegedly has stopped drinking, because he's a family man, because his whole family moved to Oxford. His brother was on the staff. Two of his 3 children lived with him in Oxford. His son played quarterback for the local high school team. Oh, it was such a heartwarming story. Yeah. Ryan McGee's a good journalist, but he got played in that E60 by Lane Kiffin. Yeah. Lane Kiffin said very few true things in that E60. He said very few true things in that interview with Marty Smith on Sunday. He played Florida in this whole coaching deal. He played everybody. Yeah. And he tried to play Ole Miss, and I got a whole new level of respect for Keith Carter.
Me too.
He didn't say it. I almost wanted him to say a Mississippi man will coach Mississippi's team. Yeah. The way Bo Schembechler did back in 1989 when his basketball coach at Michigan, Bill Frieder, had accepted the Arizona State job, but thought he could coach the NCAA tournament with Michigan. Yeah. And Bo said, see ya.
Yeah.
Don't let the door hit you. And what happened in the best outcome possible to that story, interim coach Steve Fisher led the Wolverines, led by Glenn Rice, who I saw at the Alabama-Purdue game, he's now a scout, led them to the national championship. And wouldn't that be poetic justice if Pete Golding led Ole Miss to the national championship?
Yeah, I won't be surprised. I mean, it's going to be. Look, Golding's a pretty good coach, and all these people try to act like Saban ran him out of there. We look. There's different opinions on everything, but you know what? Kiffin, he's a hell of a coach. Can't argue that. But you know what? Those kids on that team they're dialed in, and if the right people, if Golding sounded good in that press conference, I'll be pulling for Ole Miss, and I hope Vanderbilt also gets in the playoff. Boom, Cumberland. Kevin, I want to ask you now. I want to ask you quickly about Sumrall. That was my number one choice for Auburn. A lot of people are coming out. Oh, that was an awkward press conference. Hell, remember Pat Dye, University of Auburn. I mean, he got grief about it. It worked out with him. Sumrall, I thought, was the best coach I wanted anywhere. And I'm shocked at some of the comments by people about him. John Hartwell's known him since high school. Talked on the Sunday we did a pop-up show. I love the hire.
Rob, but you know now it's Auburn and Florida fan. Just calm down. They're pissed, and they got a right to be pissed.
Yeah.
Okay, they got a right to be pissed. I think in a lot of ways they were sold a bill. With any coach, you're going to be sold a bill of goods to get excited about it. The logo fever, as we talk about around here. I don't know, man. I think if you can make change in your life in your persona, like I've gone. I mean, I'm afraid to admit I went to rehab in 2007. Like I checked myself in. I had a problem. I had to take care of it, and I learned a lot of lessons and things along the way that changed me. Then became a father, and all these things in my life changed them for the better. But it became for one thing, and this is what's really important: is it was on solid foundation. Okay, I made change on solid foundation, and then I kept after it, right? I always keep after it, and I'm not going to get into my personal stuff, but I would say I always maintain that always, and I keep myself humble. I didn't see a lot of that in Lane Kiffin. I saw a lot of PR, and I saw a lot of, hey, we should move this direction or that direction, or I've stopped drinking, or I've stopped doing these things. Look, guys, that's not how this works. It just doesn't. So if you really want to make real change, then he would have shown that in this process, in this next step in his transition. And what he did is what he showed his ass. And it's the cringiest thing in the world to watch him in an LSU shirt up there in his podium, or trying to act like that he's excited and everything else, because it was just done in such a poor fashion. Yeah. It was a la Lane Kiffin, a la when he left Tennessee and all the other stuff that he's gotten involved in. Florida Gator fans, I'll take our guy all day long over that guy, and especially right now after what we saw.
Yeah, Kevin, you've seen some coaching changes. Kind of your thoughts on Sumrall. I don't know if you know. You probably do. You know everybody, legitimately.
Well, I don't know John, but I do know a lot of people who got to know him, particularly when he was at Troy.
Yeah,
and they think the world of him.
Yeah.
And what I know, and again, based on people I know who know him, I thought he was, like you, Rob, I thought he was the best choice for the Auburn job. And I think he's got a great chance to hit it out of the park at Florida. And I think while on the front end, he hasn't accomplished at the highest level what Lane Kiffin has.
Yeah.
And look, for all of my negative feelings towards Lane Kiffin, he's done a terrific job coaching football at Ole Miss, no doubt. But Jon Sumrall has been a head coach for 4 years, and he's about to coach in his fourth consecutive conference championship game. That means something. He's done it at two different schools, twice at Troy, now twice at Tulane. That tells you something. Just as, and Auburn fans have been, apparently, I've gotten on their bad side by pointing out facts about Alex Golesh, not all of which are positive. Alex Golesh was a head coach for 3 years at South Florida. Did a good job, turned the program around, won a lot more games. It helped that they committed a lot more money to their program. They're now spending in 2024, they spent $31 million on football. That sounds like couch cushion change to the SEC, but that's the most of any public school in the American Conference. Now, he made good use of that money, but he still didn't win a conference championship. He still was 1-7 against teams in the American Conference that finished with a winning record. He also, and this is the one that blows me away, 17 years he's been a coach, either a position coach, a coordinator, or a head coach. In those 17 years, he has never been part of a team that played for a conference championship. He's never been part of a team that won a conference championship. He's only been part of one team in those 17 years that won 10 or more games. That was at Tennessee in 2022 when they won 11. And look, the guy knows offense. The guy knows how to coach up quarterbacks. That should be an immediate improvement for Auburn. But Jon Sumrall has won everywhere he's been. It's a small sample size, relatively speaking, but the dude wins. And from what I've seen, he wins the right way. And he's got that. How about John Cohen talking about the importance of edge? And he hired a coach who actually wore a hat that had the word edge across it on the on the top. Jon Sumrall has edge.
Oh yeah.
Jon Sumrall he speaks fluent sarcasm, which I think I'm fluent in as well. And that's another reason not to like him. He's got a little Spurrier in him in that regard, and that's never a bad thing for the coach in Gainesville. He's got a personality.
He's got a little Meyer in him. Because
he's got both. I think he's got elements of both.
Right? That's that military side of him. Him and his wife, decorated combat veterans. I mean, he really, you're right. He's got a little bit of everything. And I think that's why you saw Spurrier and Meyer at the press conference yesterday.
Yeah.
And you can tell, and that's funny. The introductory press conferences, people get so excited. They're not really press conferences; they're pep rallies. You got a bunch of supporters, boosters, trustees in the room, and they're all excited. Well, some of them are excited, some of them are wait and see, but they put on a good face and they shake hands and they cheer, clap. You can see how well coached guys are before their press conference, because Jon Sumrall talking about offense, what was his line? He had a good line about having an explosive offense isn't it's a requirement at Florida, or it's mandatory at Florida. Mm-hmm. It's not just something you want to do; it's something you have to do. So clearly he understands the lay of the land. Just as when Alex Golesh was asked, "Do you play golf?" and he said, "That's a trap question." He said, "I love football more than golf." And everybody applauded. Yeah.
I kind of hated that question a little bit, but I loved that. I did appreciate the difference in tone of, he got up there and he this is as a former player, I guess. He still gave, Tulane love. And he said, look, I can't wait to get home and coach my boys and get my guys and all that stuff. I mean, that's a player's coach in a lot of ways. I just, what we're hearing in Kevin and Rob, and this is all speculation, and this is on Twitter and everything else, is, there's a lot of other yoga classes and potential other things that were a little sketchy, which are unconfirmed in that sense. But there's a lot of swirling things in Oxford, and I hope Yancy Porter can shed some light on this later when he comes on the show with us. And just that that he might have been a little, as they say, as my daughter says, cringe. A little cringy in some of his decisions and some of his potential yoga choices. So, hey, man, I don't know. I think a lot of that stuff comes out after you leave, and it's all speculation. And I'm not trying to traffic in rumors, but there is a lot of smoke on this one.
Well, there is, and we hear it in Memphis. Trust me, we're an hour away. I've been hearing it for a long time. It's not new, but back to these coaching things. How about Kentucky? Will Stein, offensive coordinator. Is he going to be the head coach at Kentucky? Is it official?
I'm not close to that situation. That obviously there's a lot of reporting pointing in that direction, and I don't know much about him. Clearly, he's done a good job at Oregon, and that's the thing that people need to realize. And the older you get, the more you realize it. Look, we've all been wrong in evaluating coaching hires. I thought Will Muschamp was a great choice for Florida. I think Will Muschamp's a good football coach. He never got the offense right. I think if he had ever gotten the right offensive coordinator, who knows?
Well,
but he didn't. Didn't.
He had the DNA for it. I mean, that's
sure. He had the right upbringing. He had the right coaching
from the right place.
Pedigree. Yeah. I mean, he had everything you could want to be Kirby Smart, but he wasn't. Yeah. Because he never got his offense right, and there's probably other aspects to it. But so I'm more hesitant than ever to say, well, this was a home run or that team swung and missed. Why do we use baseball analogies for football hires? I always wondered about that. But anyway,
we all grew up
because cliches are easy, and we all grew up playing Little League, and I guess and baseball's in all of our blood. So I don't know. If they hire Will Stein, who knows? It was certainly time for Mark Stoops to go. It was probably past time for Mark Stoops to go. He did about as much as you could do with that program. It's hard to imagine you could do more than he did when he had, when he had good years. Certainly, Florida will be glad to see Mark Stoops gone from the Kentucky sideline, because in recent years, he's been one of the biggest thorns in Florida's side, and dealt them some of their most embarrassing losses.
Well, you look at the Kentucky program, $22 million on basketball NIL, football, not even close to that. But something had to change. When he got on that plane and went to Texas A&M, that was it. I mean, he came back like a bad marriage. Let's try to work things out, waste some money with a counselor. It never worked. I mean, it was a waste. And so now, I don't know if it matters. All right, Ryan Silverfield. I was texting with him Sunday and congratulating him because we've had him on the show a couple of times. I just got to know him through Dr. Hardgrave and being in Memphis. The guy will text you at 4:15 in the morning because he's already in the office. The one thing I hear from everybody in Arkansas is, please come recruit the state. Get to know the coaches. Yeah, there's not as many players as there are in Alabama or Georgia or Florida. Certainly not. But you've got to get 35, 40% of your roster homegrown. I like Silverfield's track record. 10 years at Memphis as an assistant and head coach. That's about all you need to be at anywhere, isn't it, Kevin?
Yeah. And look, there's some fun facts, too, about this trio of American Conference coaches that are now SEC coaches.
Yep.
That all went down in quick order on Sunday. Ryan Silverfield at Memphis was 3-0 against Alex Golesh at South Florida.
Yeah.
And Jon Sumrall at Tulane was 1-0 against Alex Golesh at South Florida. So I'm not a math major, but the two other coaches that were hired from the American in the SEC are 4-0 against Alex Golesh, the new Auburn coach. Maybe that means nothing at the jobs they're going to be at, or they're at now. But I just thought that was an interesting twist. Ryan Silverfield, it's funny, Robin, you're much closer to the situation than I am, but things that stand out about him are being undefeated and losing to UAB in the first game after UAB fired Trent Dilfer and interim coach Alex Mortensen took over. That was a shocking loss to a lot of people. I hear people in Memphis, some that are celebrating that he's gone. I hear other people because he didn't do championships the way his predecessors had, although he was a part of some of that. So I don't know. He's a gamble. Golesh is a gamble. Sumrall's a gamble. There are very few sure things in coaching hires. Nick Saban at Alabama, sure thing. Nick Saban at LSU, not a sure thing after Michigan State.
Yeah, well, the one thing about coaches that we do know is this. You can have somebody that's a very successful businessman worth $1 billion family net worth, and their kids lay in bed and smoke the hookah all day, just stoned. They don't care. That doesn't mean they're going to be successful. There's no coaches out there. You can't go buy a coach. Hey, Brendan, let's go find us a coach that'll get us 11 or 12 wins a year. That'll be $10 million a year. What about an 8-win coach? That'll be about 7. I mean, it doesn't work that way. And Brendan was right about Billy Napier. Brendan can read the room. And I thought he would outwork people, but his energy, you just didn't see it. Jon Sumrall, you're getting a guy that John Hartwell's known him since he was in high school. John talked a lot about him. I
have a clip, Rob, from the press conference yesterday. This is Buddy Martin's question. It's at the end. It's a very good question. So this is from his press conference yesterday.
Hi, Coach. Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show in Gator Bay. By the way, bring that back, that Gator Bay. We want that back. I want to take you back to a time in your life, this being a great day, which might have been your lowest point, if I've read correctly, when you received the news about your spine. And you're basically without football, which I know must have been very depressing. Talk about where you were then, your journey to get here today, and who may have helped you along the way.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I guess it was April 2005. 04, I just led the team in tackles at Kentucky. I was a really kind of a self-made player. God gifted me with some things, but elite physical talent wasn't the most gifted thing he gave me. I'd worked really hard to become a starter really, really hard. Like I'd outworked people that were more talented than me. Led the team in tackles in 04, was on the several watch lists for awards that were coming out that spring and summer. And then that spring I got the diagnosis. My arms were going numb for not like a couple plays or even a couple hours, but started going numb like a couple days where I couldn't like grab stuff. And I was in severe pain. And so I'd been dealing with it for a couple of years and not said a whole lot about it because I was fearful they may tell me I had something more wrong with me than I wanted to hear. And so the diagnosis was what I probably thought it was. I was distraught, man. Like I've given this game everything I'd had to become the player I was, which was a pretty average player, but I'd made myself an average player. And I was heartbroken because I invested so much into my own development. Truthfully, we got done with spring ball that year. Coach Brooks said, hey, I want you to stay on as a student coach. We got done with the spring semester. I'd graduated. I drove to Destin, Florida. I probably tried to drink enough cold beer that I could not think about my injury for a couple of days because I was crushed. And then Coach Brooks' football ops guy at the time, a guy named Steve Hellier. I'm sitting on the beach. I have like a flip phone that none of us would recognize now. And Steve Hellier says, John, what are you doing? I said, I'm sitting on the beach drinking a beer. What are you doing? He goes, Coach Brooks wants to know if you come back and be a GA. And I didn't immediately get in my car because I wasn't in capacity to do so. But I went to the condo that night, packed my stuff up, and left the next morning, got back to Lexington, Kentucky, and started coaching the next day. Started working youth camp. And so hadn't looked back. And it's been the greatest blessing of my life to be a college football coach. Thank you. Go Gators.
Hey, Brendan and Kevin, I like that. That's a cool story. And I've like I said, I know about him just through John Hartwell. I don't know Jon Sumrall, and you don't either. But you and I both know a lot of the people. We knew that the Stein thing, the guy's saying, hey, y'all should know he was named Kentucky's coach. You want to make sure things are official. That's why I said that in the way I did, Kevin. But I thought the question from Buddy was really revealing.
That's one of the most interesting things when a new coach is hired is getting to know their backstory.
Yeah.
And clearly he has a pretty incredible backstory, as does Alex Golesh.
Yeah.
He has a backstory unlike any coach in the history of college football.
Yep.
Being born in Moscow, Russia, not Moscow, Idaho. He's not another potato man. Auburn fans, don't worry about that. And then and his family moving when he was 7 years old to the United States with a couple $100 and the clothes on their back and a dream of what they could achieve in this country.
Yeah.
So you think it's adversity because Auburn's lost to Georgia 9 years in a row and Alabama 6 times in a row now. This guy knows real adversity. So you have to hope, if you're an Auburn person, that certainly has helped shape who Alex Golesh is. He's not going to be intimidated by the job ahead of him. And he's got a tough job ahead of him because Auburn is closer to the bottom of the SEC than it is the top. God. And it's going to be a tough climb to get back there. But he has a lot of things that you like. He does have, and I joked about edge, but he does have an edge and a determination about him. And you see that in Jon Sumrall as well.
Well, the thing that I like about Golesh, Pete Cordelli knows him very well. And Pete told me last night, he said, Rob, when Alex was at Tennessee and I'm in Nashville coaching, working with high schools and quarterbacks development, Alex Golesh would come from Knoxville to Nashville 2 or 3 times a week recruiting Middle Tennessee. He'd end up in my office and we'd talk for hours about development, strategy. He goes, the guy is OCD about learning. And it's the numbers that you gave, and Bartu will give them as well. They don't jump out at you. But putting him at Auburn, I know the people that run the collective at Auburn, Ever to Conquer, they don't lack for money. But I think the way things were, and at Florida, the same thing was happening with Billy Napier. There's a lot of big money that's never been asked to give. Because unless they see an ROI, most people in private equity want 15, 20% return on investment. They're not going to touch you. You got to get the right people. You got to know how to ask for the money. And Kevin, I thought that was cool for Buddy to ask that question. And I hope Jon Sumrall sits down and talks to Buddy. And I hope you'll.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
I hope he'll come on this show as well. But Kevin, Yancey's going to be on here in a minute. What's cool about you is you're a true grit journalist. You don't traffic in rumors, and you are funny. And everybody's getting so serious.
Sometimes intentionally.
Well, but you know what I mean. But a lot of people are getting so worked up about these hires. It's Napier 2.0. It's not even close. Napier's more quiet. Sumrall, much more animated. And I loved the picture Brendan sent me. Urban Meyer on one side, Steve Spurrier on the other. I would embrace that Gator culture and invite all former Gators to come to practice. Just like Golesh, you've got to invite your people and open up some practices to the fans. Quit pushing them away. Bring them back.
Well, Sammy Coates, the former Auburn receiver, went on Twitter not that long ago and said Auburn needed to reevaluate its policies towards former players. And I don't know what the whole deal was there, but Sammy was very well respected, a very impactful player for Auburn. Now he's a high school coach at the school in this state that had lost, I don't know what the losing streak, 90-something games in a row when he took the job. But when a former player says something like that, you need to reevaluate because you need those guys on your side. I mean, you've said it many times, Rob. They sweated and they bled and they helped build that place, and they deserve a measure of respect.
Yeah.
And that's why it always boggles my mind at any school to hear a former player say, well, I don't really feel welcome when I come back. How is that even possible?
It should never be possible. And the thing that gets me is practices. When you close practices, look, I had so many people telling me, I didn't believe him. Freeze, he doesn't know his team. He's hardly ever in the building. And all the stories about golf were true. I mean, I have a lot of friends that live in Auburn.
There are more stories that about his golfing time that people aren't aware of. People started telling me that way back early after last season, in the off season, that he was golfing the day after games.
Yeah.
On Sundays during the season. That's hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah, and I just think about the true football coaches that actually love coaching college football. They're there in the building. They live there. Silverfield will be in the building at 4:00 in the morning at Arkansas. Sumrall, he's going to live there. He'll have a bed in his office. And
here's the thing.
So will his assistant coaches too.
Yeah. Here's what I want to see, because think about this. We talk about quarterback rooms and receiving rooms, and I'm still not sure what happened to Auburn's receiving room in the Iron Bowl. Those guys all of a sudden couldn't catch a cold.
They lost their digits.
I know it was cold. I know it was cold, but the quarterback. Think of the possibility of what the quarterback room at Auburn could be next year if Byron Brown from South Florida decides to transfer there. He has one more year of eligibility. This year, he was the 12th player in FBS history to throw for 3,000 yards and run for another 1,000. The guy's a true dual threat. He's 6'3", 231. Certainly, he competed very well when they beat Florida in the Swamp this year. What if he decides to go to Auburn, and then Deuce Knight is still at Auburn, and then Ashton Daniels? That's going to be fascinating to watch, just that single position, because you expect, based on his track record, that whoever plays quarterback for Auburn, Alex Golesh is going to get the best out of them.
Yeah.
Far different from his predecessor.
Well, Hugh Freeze came in and they was pushed on Auburn after his time at Liberty. And I think other people we know pushed him on Auburn. And it just didn't work out. Yancy Porter, welcome aboard Rebel Yell Hotline. Got Kevin Scarbinsky, Scarbo knows, one of the best writers around. You, too, one of the best journalists, Yancy. Catch that Rebel Yell Hotline Monday nights at 6 o'clock in Memphis on Sports 56 WHBQ and all over on Super Talk Mississippi. Yancey, you were ahead of everybody on this Ole Miss. You kept saying 50-50, then 75%. Tell us what happened and what's Ole Miss's next move, because nobody knows better than you and Chuck Rounsville and Harry Harrison and y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now they're trying to fill out their offensive staff. Last night we received word that Charlie Rice, the offensive coordinator, had agreed to coach the remaining of the playoffs. He flew out with Lane on Saturday, or excuse me, on Sunday to LSU. But he's decided to coach the remainder of the playoffs, and that's kind of mixed. From the fans' perspective, they don't want anybody associated with LSU because he signed a term contract, not an actual contract, but the term contract. But it's still, he has intentions on continuing to follow Lane and be at LSU. And do you want a coach around the Ole Miss players for the next month and a half that could actually, poach players during that time? So it's, we're going to see how that ends up resolving because that term contract was not signed until after he agreed to come back to coach the playoffs. So they're trying to finish this offensive staff. The defensive staff stayed intact. Everybody stayed. Obviously, Pete is a defensive guy, so all the staff remained on there. The offensive line coach signed an extension for 2 years at Ole Miss last night as well. The running back coach, Kevin Smith, is there. We'll see what he does at the end. He's kind of follow lane everywhere from FAU to Ole Miss. So they've been kind of joined at the hip for a long time, but he has not signed any contracts with LSU. They lost their tight end coach and their wide receiver coach. And then obviously the brother of Lane, Chris Kiffin, went with Lane as well. So they've lost three assistants. That we know of that will not be in the playoffs. The wide receiver coach, as we just mentioned, the tight end coach, and then Chris Kiffin, that was kind of a slash D line slash linebacker, just kind of chipped in coach on defense. So really just trying to settle in the offensive staff. They've got a little less than 3 weeks now before the first game in the playoffs, and just trying to get everything settled offensively.
Well, Kevin Scarbinsky is with us right now. He just finished a hot yoga class before he joined us. Kevin, how are you? I know you got questions for Yancy.
Yeah, Yancy, what's the level of concern around the program about what the College Football Playoff Committee might do without the head coach being there, with the Charlie Weiss Jr. situation being up in the air, as you just described in great detail? Because it would be one of the greatest travesties in college football history of this Ole Miss team. First of all, if they left them out, I can't even wrap my mind around that idea. But that they would drop them in the rankings, that would prevent them from playing a home game in the first round and would send them on the road. What's the feeling down there?
Yeah, so people got to remember with the Florida State game, not game, but the situation with Florida State is they actually had data points without their quarterback. And Florida State went from averaging 48 points to 8 points a game with their without their starting quarterback, right? So
Yeah.
they had data points to show, and they dropped from number 4 to number 5. This is a 12-team playoff. So Ole Miss is not going to drop 7, 8 spots. They're just not. Um, so as far as missing the playoffs altogether, there's a zero chance of that. As far as dropping out of a home game situation, uh, that that is a little concern. I would say I would give that probably maybe a 10% chance that happens. They're at number 7 right now. All the predictions and indicators have Ole Miss moving up to the 5 spot, a little bit ahead of Texas A&M. Got to remember, Ole Miss has won two games against playoff teams already. Texas A&M, 7 of the 8 conference games were against the 7 bottom teams in the SEC. They don't have any quality wins in the SEC. So uh, there's predictions that they move up to the 5 seed. Um, they would have to drop to the 9 seed. I think they're going to stay. My personal opinion, they're going to stay about a 7 seed. That's what I think is going to happen. For Ole Miss's sake, they do have somebody that's going to make sure that they're taking up for them with former All-American, 2-time All-American Wesley Walls that's on the playoff committee. So they're not left high and dry, so to speak. I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to lose a spot as far as hosting a game. I do think the concern is there's a big difference between a 5 and 6 seed than a 7, 8 seed. And if you're at a 7, 8 seed, you are playing a true national championship contender. If you're in the 5 seed, you're playing North Texas or Tulane. I mean, Ole Miss beat Tulane by 45, 50 points earlier this season. So that's a huge difference in your matchup in round one between a 5 and 6 seed than a 7 and 8 seed. So I think that's the concern. Not really if they're going to lose a spot as far as hosting, it's that being in that 7, 8 seed because honestly, they should be a five. You're 11-1 in the SEC. You're 2-1 against the playoff teams. You should be at worst a 6 seed. So yeah, I think they're going to get penalized without having Lane, and I think the penalization is going to be they're going to be a 7 or 8 seed.
All right, home game in Oxford. Ginormous is an understatement, and I think, and also I want to say that I had made a wager on this show the last few weeks that if Texas A&M won the SEC championship, all of us on that show would wear white Texas A&M milkmen cheerleading outfits. So I'm spared that. All right, so is that going to be bigger than double decker, bigger than the Writers Literary Fair, and everything combined? If Ole Miss hosts the home game, Yancey.
Yeah, I think what's happened with Kiffin is going to make it even bigger. It's been a really big rallying cry. Um, there's a lot of emotions. After Kiffin left, the players came out. This kind of united the team even more. It's kind of us against the world. Kiffin's the villain. Um, there's a lot of frustration, a lot of mistrust of what the way that he played this, and it's kind of united the team even more. So, and the fan base contributions to the NIL is skyrocketing since Kiffin left. Not as if it could get even more, right? So everybody's just kind of united, right? That hey, you want to do this, you'll see what we can do, right? So
Yeah.
um I think it's going to be a very emotional game, and I look for Ole Miss to play with their hair on fire in the playoffs.
Yeah, Kevin.
Let me ask Yancey another question. Yancey, can you I know you can, and I'd like you to clear up the confusion. We heard Lane Kiffin say that the Ole Miss players wanted him to stay and coach the playoff. Can you tell us the truth of that statement?
No, that's there's nothing farther from the truth than that. Maybe he found a player or two that wanted him to coach, but these Kiffin's the villain right now with the Ole Miss players. They're not happy about it. They feel like it's kind of like if your wife or husband left you, right? They definitely did not want him coaching them in the playoffs. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, then there are people. Ellis Johnson said yesterday that it's frustrating as it is. The players, the coaches are hunting money, and the players are hunting money too. But to me, it's just still different as we're all adults, and I have kids. They're a little bit older than this, but I don't blame Ole Miss people for being mad as hell because Kevin and Yancey, we all know they gave him everything he asked for and more. And I talked to a friend of mine yesterday who knows the guy. He's good friends with the guy who gave y'all a $20 million gift. Okay. You know what I'm talking about, Yancey, to keep
Yep.
Lane Kiffin.
Yep.
And he said, well, just use it for NIL now. Y'all have
Yeah.
got money. And this is if you thought the Grove Collective exploded when Kiffin played footsie with Auburn and stayed, it's about to get even bigger, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exploding. And here's the deal, everybody in America has the right to go work with who you want to go work for.
Yeah.
And Kiffin, yes, there would have been fans and players that would have been upset if he would have left regardless.
Yeah.
But it's the way that he leaves, and continuing. Kiffin tries to control a narrative, as you just pointed out, saying that the players wanted him to coach to the playoffs, which is a lie. That he's so grateful at the press conference. He talks about how happy he is and grateful for Ole Miss and yada, 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 and everything. And then, 30 minutes before he walks to the press conference, he's calling commits of Ole Miss, not trying to flip them to LSU, but just telling them to leave Ole Miss. He's trying to burn the house down. And that's what has made it from just leaving in a professional manner to being Lane Kiffin. And that's why Lane is Lane. And he just doesn't have any class. And that's the problem with him. You could have just left and said, man, these were the best years of my life. But I just felt like I needed to go to LSU and leave it at be, but threatening the president and the AD said, if you don't let me coach, if I don't get my way, then I'm going to sabotage the playoffs and take all the staff and I'm going to poach all the players as soon as the portal comes open and stuff like that. Why do that? You should have let the staff stay to finish the job. And then you have some behind the scenes guys come with you to LSU and get everything organized, including your GM, Glasgow, and some recruiting guys. Get everything organized and ready for LSU sign day and for the portal, right? But he refuses. He just refuses to do anything in a classy manner when he doesn't get his way. And it's just, it's the spoiled little kid that we all knew him growing up. And it's just, man, he's got a lot of growing up to do. And I hate it because, look, they were great years at Ole Miss. Made a lot of people a lot of money here in Oxford. A lot of people a lot of money at Ole Miss. He did a tremendous job as a head coach. He is an unbelievable coach. He is going to do a tremendous job at LSU. I have zero doubts about it. And then I have zero doubts that he's going to burn LSU down like he's done every single place he's been in his coaching career. We're not talking about at Ole Miss. I mean, you go any school he's ever been to, he's done the same thing everywhere. And then he comes out with the 60, the Lane Kiffin documentary. And then the next week, he does everything the opposite of what he said he had overcame in the documentary. It's fake. And he's got a lot of growing up to do, and he needs a strong, good wife to just put a noggin on his head and said, Lane, stop it. But he doesn't have it. He has a lot of yes people around him. And we see it all the time with people in the entertainment business and professional athletes that are making so much money. And they just have yes people all around them. And nobody's telling them good common sense things to do. And that's his problem.
Well, that's why Elvis was dead at 42. He had Colonel Tom Parker, who was not an American citizen, so he could never travel abroad. So he had him playing all those shows out in Las Vegas, and he was dead at 42. Anyone that knew anything about that, a friend of mine's father was his attorney. And it's same thing with Lane Kiffin. You get these sycophants. You get somebody with a lot of money and all these people running around kissing their ass because they want to go to their beach house or their lake house or ride on their plane, and they live vicariously through these other people. You're right. A strong wife. I've got one. She has 3 brothers and 3 cousins.
Oh, I've got one too.
Yeah, and I got an alpha. And Kevin's wife is a beautiful lady. Kevin is a strong Catholic. 2 great kids at Florida. You see the similarities here? And look, I remarried. I married a Vol for life. Here's the thing with Kiffin. He didn't handle it well at all. You're right. And for the last month, the misery. And I think Kevin said it. And Kevin speaks with so much power. Keith Carter, dude, we're not putting up with that. Ole Miss's chancellor, they had their conversations, but the Ole Miss fans, the Grove Collective is about to explode. This is their Braveheart moment, okay? Falkirk, Bannockburn. The Ole Miss Collective, I think, is going to explode now. And the stories about Kiffin are going to come out, but Ole Miss now needs to look inward, don't they, Kevin?
Well, absolutely. And what people should know, and certainly you guys know this, is and look, none of us knows how good a job Pete Golding will do as the head coach over time. But he is a far better recruiter than Lane Kiffin. Pete Golding, that's the primary reason that Nick Saban hired him at Alabama, why he kept him at Alabama when their defense dropped off from the Kirby Smart, Jeremy Pruitt days. Pete Golding is a demon in recruiting. And am I correct in saying, Yancy, he was the best recruiter
No
on that staff?
question. Yeah. I mean, no question. I mean, what saved Lane Kiffin was the NIL portal era, because the talent would have dropped significantly from what Matt Luke had recruited when he inherited, Matt Corral and Ely and, all those guys. And that's what made Ole Miss's job attractive for Lane, because there was a great young nucleus of freshmen on the team that were very talented that he thought he could do a lot with. And Lane, I mean, he would tell you he's not a recruiter. I mean, he doesn't even know half the players' names on the team. He just calls them by their jersey number. He's a brilliant offensive mind. And then he realized he had to get some kind of defense that resembled a defense after the first 2 years of having to outscore everybody 52-48. So then he went and got Pete. And then Pete stabilized the whole program. Not only with his recruiting, but with his discipline, and the players leaned on him on offense and defense. Pete has been the go-to guy since he's been there for any problems any players have, teaching on the field, recruiting, anything. And so there had been, everybody knew when Lane left, and he was going to leave eventually. Everybody in the administration, all of the upper givers to the program knew that the day was coming. Is when was it going to come? He was always going to be the guy.
Yeah. Well, and this is not, like you said, Yancy and Kevin, not an attack on LSU. They got a great coach. He's going
to do tremendous things at LSU. He is going to win, and he is going to win big. And the LSU fans are going to be right in their palm. And he's going to have fun, and he's going to troll, and it's fun and all that at that side of lane. It's just when he leaves is when it's not fun. He doesn't just leave. He has to burn everything down when he leaves and turn everybody against him. And that's the part. It's so simple too. It's so simple to change that one aspect of you, but he never gets everything he wants when he leaves from the school, and anything he doesn't get, then he gets this Darth Vader type attitude towards that school and says, well, I'm going to burn it down. And there will be something that he's not happy about when he leaves. I mean, could you imagine LSU if Ole Miss took their coach and they're going to the playoffs and say, here, let us coach us through the playoffs and come poach your players along the way? That would never, ever happen.
That'll happen. Yeah, never.
That's just not even a question about it. So, but he's going to do a great job at LSU. They'll win next year. They'll probably win, 9, maybe even 10 games. And then he'll start rolling in year 2. I have no doubt that he's going to win big at LSU.
Yeah. Guys, I like these coaches that came up from the American, Silverfield, Sumrall, Golesh, and look at Will Stein, Matt Dean on our show. His son's on the staff at Oregon. We got some pretty good intel on Oregon. That's a hell of a hire as an offensive coordinator. But as Dave Bartu says, OC, DC, CEO. Those are the best coaching combinations, Kevin, in college football, aren't they?
Yeah, typically. Kiffin's a little different because, as Yancy has pointed out, brilliant offensive mind, but not really. He's not Nick Saban. Not that anyone else is, but in terms of level of organization and detail and demanding things not only from others but from yourself in your professional and your personal life, he ain't Nick Saban. He's never going to be Nick Saban, and I disagree somewhat. I think he will have some success at LSU, but if he doesn't win a national championship there in 3 to 4 years, they're not going to be real happy with him. Yeah. That's the standard that's been set, and we'll see if he can maintain that and bring them back a championship. But at some point, he's going to do, as Yancy said, he's going to do what he's done everywhere he's been. He's going to turn everybody against him. He's going to leave a trail of slime on his way out of town, pitchforks and torches following behind him. That's just who he is, and he hasn't changed. He's still the same person at heart. But he's a good football coach. So we'll see how that works out. I'm fascinated to see, again, how Pete Golding does at Ole Miss as the head coach. He just seems more authentic, more genuine than Lane Kiffin. And that should count for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see too. And people, said, well, we don't know if he's going to win 10, 11 games like Lane has. And I was like, no, you don't know. I mean, of course you don't. Well, what about, the state's coach that promoted their DC? And what about Matt Luke that promoted his O-line coach to head coach? And I'm like, well, what about Kirby Smart? What about Dabo? What about Ryan Day? Right?
Yep.
What about Marcus Freeman? We could go both ways. Everybody is different. I mean, there's no certainty either way. It's just up to the coach. Now, one thing that we do know is that Pete is going to have all of the funds financially from his staff to NIL to revenue sharing. There will be zero excuses. If he doesn't win, it won't be because he didn't have the tools needed to win, because this will be one of the top three funded rosters during his tenure here at Ole Miss. So, if he doesn't win, it'll just be because it's on him. And I think as a coach, you feel comfortable in that, right? If you don't have all the bullets in the holster, and you're lacking the funds, or you're lacking the crowds, and you're lacking the support from the administration. I mean, he's got Keith Glenn and Walker Jones. There are no better three guys to work for than that. Walker is the head of the Grove Collective, if you're not familiar with them. Keith is the AD, and Glenn is the president of Ole Miss. And they're all three in unison, and they're going to give you everything. Lane was never told no one time about anything at Ole Miss. Anything. We're talking about a guy that is fishing, deep sea fishing, in the mornings, and showing up an hour and a half late for practices and team meetings while he's deep sea fishing, using the Ole Miss jets to get back and forth. And nobody says a word. Doesn't show up for one alumni meeting anywhere during his tenure. Has zero relationships with anybody in the community. He had it all. I mean, he had total control, anatomy of the program. He had AD and president. He had everything. But Lane, he's the guy that could be married 8 different times and has 8 beautiful, loving wives. But after 2 or 3 years, he's just looking for something different. And that's the way he is. And I think it's because of the way he grew up, because he was moving his whole life every 2 or 3 years. He's never stayed anywhere. He's never been anywhere 6 years like he was in Oxford. He had never been anywhere more than 3 years in his whole life at any one place. So he grew up moving and always moving to different areas. And so he gets bored. And I think he kind of got bored at the end of at Ole Miss. I really do. I think even winning the national championship, I think he would have been kind of bored. He didn't leave because he thinks he can win easier or win more at LSU. I just think he got bored. I just think he needs to go. And I think he'll continue to be that way. He won't be at LSU very long. It would be a miracle if he stayed there 6 years. It would be, the LSU will be damn blessed if he even stays there 4 years. I think he'll be there 2 or 3 years at most, and then he's going to go on to his next adventure. That's just Lane Kiffin.
Yeah. Well,
Rob, I'm going to have to jump off.
Yeah.
This has been fun. Yancey clearly knows Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
as many of us in the state of Alabama do from his time on Nick Saban's staff, which also ended ingloriously.
Yes.
Short of a week short of a national championship game. So that tells you a lot about Lane Kiffin. But this has been interesting. Thanks, guys.
First of all, let me say, Kevin, thank you so much for staying along with us. You're so. I mean, I'm telling you, thank you more than you know. Because, guys, ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching, stay on you at 10:30 Eastern. Scarbo knows it's a kick-ass, great podcast, and Kevin will put out a ton of information, graphs, charts, numbers. So, Kevin, be ready. I'll be watching you. Never miss. So, thanks so much.
Right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hey,
God bless.
Yancey, you know the thing, again, and we're going, Brendan said, go a little bit long. You do know Kiffin, and we know a lot about him. We know about Hugh Freeze, was protected always and still is by Sean Toohey and Jimmy Sexton. That's how it goes from his days at Briarcrest. Lane Kiffin is in that same kind of deal. He's moved 17 times in his career. And the Ole Miss people, Walker Jones and Brock Kreitz. I know Brock. I worked with Brock. He's a friend of mine. And I think, did Walker go to Jackson Prep?
He did.
Yeah. And he was at Under Armour for 15 years.
He went to
Kevin Plank.
JP or JA. I can't remember which school, but he went to either Jackson Academy or Prep.
Well, we do know this. He is from Bold New City. That's what they call Jackson. the Bold New City. We used to stop and eat at the wagon wheel between Jackson and Hattiesburg when we would go to Destin that way. Now I go down more through Alabama to get on 331 down on 30A, whatever, in Destin. Destin's so crowded, by the way, it's hard to go there. But you know what? Why not just have SEC Media Days every year at Destin? What are we doing? I mean, why not?
Nice.
Just do it there instead of those spring meetings. They go, look, Yancy, got a few more minutes here. You look at the Ole Miss situation, and we got to get Rodney. He's having trouble. He got one of those new Android or Samsung phones, and it's difficult. We're going to work through it. But looking at the college football playoff tonight, there's going to be a meeting. I'm going to say the SEC. My prediction preseason was Georgia would play Alabama. Bama would win in the regular season. Georgia would win the rematch. And it's easy to beat this team a second time. More often than not, people win the rematches. So I have Georgia still going to win the SEC. They're playing, although Georgia Tech, again, took them a full 60. But that's Kirby, man. Kirby's teams play a full 60. So now, looking at this playoff, let me tell you something. Pete Cordelli told me last night. Pete was on our show. He's on Mondays. Watch out for the problem. It's starting to get some legs. These players boycotting the conference championships games and the playoff games because their NIL deals are for the regular season in a lot of cases. Keep your eyes on this, folks. Players boycotting if they don't get paid to play in the conference championships and the bowl games. That's a whole nother set of circumstances.
They're going to get paid. They're going to get paid.
Yeah, they're going to have to get paid. So, all right, Yancy, Vanderbilt, real quick. I know we're talking Ole Miss, but the SEC.
Yeah.
Pavia's performance.
They should be in. They should be in.
Pavia's performance was such as if he doesn't get invited to New York, honestly, him or Fernando Mendoza at Indiana, those are the two Heisman guys right there. Pavia to me is the one guy who I haven't seen somebody since Cam Newton, Impact, or Tim Tebow at Florida. Those three guys, if Pavia doesn't win the Heisman, man, just melt that thing into lead, urine cups. I mean, we don't need it anymore.
I think he wins the Heisman. I don't even think it'd be close.
Yeah.
And the question is Vanderbilt's more than their quarterback. They got a good team.
Yeah.
And they got to figure a way to get them in. And that's going to be the real question is what happens if Texas Tech loses to BYU in the conference championship game? What happens if Alabama loses in the conference championship game? Right? So there's got to be some way to get Vanderbilt in, but Oklahoma and Notre Dame are not getting bumped out. So the only one that could be is Alabama, right? Or Texas Tech. Those are the only two opportunities, one of those two to slide Vanderbilt in. So they're one of, and this is the best. This is what we get it to again, is we got a woke system, and this is the participation trophy playoffs. Yeah. It's we got the 10 best teams, and then teams 11 and 12 have no business being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's why the system is broke. And so they keep expanding it. And they're saying they're going to go to 16 teams. Well, they'll probably have it set up where the top 12 teams, 12 best teams are in, and then 13 through 16 will be the participation trophy, right? Yeah. So we got to cut that out. We got to cut that out, and that's the problem with the setup because Vandy, if the system was correct, and then Vandy would be in, we wouldn't have to be trying to figure out how to get Vandy into the 11 or 12 spot because they would be there. Yeah. But because we have two undeserving teams in the 11 and 12 spots, then we're sitting here going through this again after last year with all the complaints. And we saw there were 4 or 5 teams in last year that had no business being in there. So we've got to fix the system.
Yeah. Well, 11 and 12, one of them, their mom sliced up the oranges, and then 12 brought the candy canes. That's where we are. And look, Ole Miss definitely, if Ole Miss gets left out of the playoffs, then don't have a play. That's not going to happen. Vanderbilt, look, their losses were on the road at Alabama by 5 or 6, and Texas, where they onside kick, they damn near came back and tied it or won that one. And that's the Heisman is Diego Pavia's. Has to be.
I think what hurt Vanderbilt there is let's be honest, they got bullied for 3.5 quarters against Texas.
They did.
For the first 50 minutes, they looked like the old baby. And I think that hurt them in the eyes of the committee. Like, man, are they really a playoff team, right? But they got it together and they had that, just hell of a comeback there in the last few minutes of the game where they scored like 3 or 4 TDs in the last few minutes. But it's an eye test, right? As they say it. And I think if they miss the playoffs, just the way they played for the first 3.5 quarters against Texas is what's going to keep them out.
Yeah, you're right. They were for 50 minutes abused, like a seal pup in a shark's mouth.
Yeah,
it was
ugly.
So
it was ugly.
And I'm gonna tell you, Yance, Pete Golding is a mega recruiter. And there's a lot of talent always in Mississippi. So and Florida and Auburn both in a 5-year, death spiral. I love the Sumrall hire. I absolutely love it. I wanted him at Auburn so bad, but Cordelli said 2 or 3 times a week Golesh would come to Nashville. Loves to talk ball. Look at that. Now look, show that to recruits. That Sumrall is an alpha, and those are 2 alphas right next to him. Look around the SEC. This league, Dave Bartu says, I don't know if the conference has a top 3, top 5 defense, offense, anything like that. Indiana does. Ohio State does. But the schedule they play. But strength of schedule is overrated. Do you think if Ohio State played in the Mid-America Conference with the talent they have, they wouldn't be a threat to beat anybody in the country? No. Of course they would. But the Big Ten, what they have going, 80% of the TV sets in America live in the geographical footprint that makes up the Big Ten. That's why. And Texas, with 30 million people that we know of in the Lone Star State, that's why they're a chance to get into the playoffs, Yancey. You know what I'm talking about. And they at 9-3,
I don't think so.
They're not going to, but they're going to try to. They're going to try to make a case, But they lost to Florida. And
they're going to, of course, they're going to try to make a case, but you can't get in. And it's not only the 3 losses, but look, they lost on the last play of the game and had no business winning at Kentucky and Mississippi State. And those are the 2, along with Arkansas, worst teams in the conference.
Yeah.
The way that they played, even in a lot of their wins, they just don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Are they playing a lot better here at the end of the year? Yes, but you have to take the totality of the season. And I think Texas is going to be geared up, and I think Arch has really ironed out a lot of the wrinkles he had in his game, and I think they're going to be geared up for next year to make a big time run. But you can't put Texas in and leave some of the teams out like Vandy and even Miami. And yes, Miami has 2 bad losses, but the eye test with Miami says, hey, they can win it all. They've got the talent. Miami is the real deal. So, I just don't see how you could put Texas in.
Okay. All right. We're going to wrap it up. Went a little bit long here because Yancey, you are so good. So is Kevin Scarbinsky. Yance, thank you so much. Rebel Yell Hotline. You're one of the best, and I'll be talking to you soon. And in the next week or 2, I'm coming down. We're going to lunch at the Tallahatchie Grill, and they better have that gumbo, or I'm going to be madder than a wet hen.
That was a unique day you came that they were out. We'll make sure we save you some gumbo.
All right, and I'm gonna go up there to Hinton and get me a shirt, man. I love it, man. Have a great
Bring your wallet.
I know.
You have
I can't have alligator arms.
Once you walk in there, you better not have deep pockets and short arms. You're gonna have to dig deep.
That's right, man. We'll do it.
Look, all the listeners have a blessed day, and God bless y'all. Take care.
Ditto to you as well. Thanks so much, man. All right, look, man. Hewlett and Dunn. I was out there yesterday. Good gosh almighty. The hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right now, Christmas hours, 10 a.m., 6 p.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Sundays after church, 1 to 5 p.m. through Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. Great time of the year. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Hempforpros.com. If you got aches and pains, sleep problems, those gummies work, and the pain lotions and topicals work. Hewlett and Dunn, I was out there yesterday. They got the Barber boots now, Ariat boots, Tom Post boots. They've got the women's and the men's Barber, Filson, the luggage, kids' clothing, great looking purses, hats, scarves. You cannot, if they don't have it at Hewlett and Dunn, they'll get it for you. Get out there and see them. And Rumble Boxing Gym, Midtown Memphis, McLean and Union. How you fight is how you live. Don't ever forget it. And those great folks at Landers Ford, man, you see them right there in Memphis at Poplar and Houston Levy, open every day of the week except Sunday, okay? 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. Do the financing, do everything. It's a turnkey operation. Hey, just remember this. For executive producer Brendan Martin, the best in the world, I like to close every show, and I mean it. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Let's go out and all of us find ways to help other people. Someone always is in need. Look inside yourself. You know you've helped people. People have helped you. Give back every day. We'll see you in a few minutes on Scarbo Knows. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching.